Fresh off the plane, here we are. Perfect timing. Lions beat the Dallas Cowboys, and I think this is good news for the 49ers because of who the Lions can knock off next. You did not want to demoralize Detroit Lions team leaving this Thursday night football game. We could take a look at some of the standings here. I don't know if these have been updated yet by the NFL. No, they haven't. But Detroit's going to move to 8-5, and you may say, okay, well, they're hot on the 49ers' tail. Not as close as it might seem, because as you can tell here, the tiebreaker is the conference record. The Lions move up to 5-4 by beating Dallas. The 49ers are 8-2 in the NFC. And the 49ers, if they win one of their last two conference games, they clinch this against Detroit as far as the tiebreaker goes. So I think the 49ers are still in good position at 8-2 in the NFC, with Detroit at 4-4. But let's look to see who Detroit has next. Yes, they play at the Los Angeles Rams. For the 49ers to have a chance at winning the division, or heaven forbid, the number one seed, they need the Rams to lose. Who's going to beat the Rams? Well, we could take a look at the Rams schedule, but I know that the Lions are going to be part of it. Detroit is playing them next at SoFi Stadium in 10 days. And guess what? Detroit is playing the Rams on a long week. The Lions are going to have a little bit more rest before they play the Rams. Look, I'm going to click on the Rams schedule. We can see where the rest of this is. The Rams have one less loss than the 49ers. So, and the 49ers don't play them. They play the Seattle Seahawks and they play the Chicago Bears. They're both in competition with. So the 49ers can administer both of those teams' losses. They can't administer the Rams a loss. So the Rams, they lose potentially either to the Detroit Lions, who just beat the Cowboys on December 14th. That's not this Sunday, but the next. Or you've got the Rams playing at the Seattle Seahawks. I don't see the Rams losing to Arizona. I don't see them losing to Atlanta. I don't see them losing to Arizona again on January 4th. The two potential Rams losses, which the 49ers could really benefit from, are the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks games. That's on December 14th and December 18th, a Sunday and a Thursday game for the Rams. So that's why I think that this Lions win is good for San Francisco. It keeps Detroit interested. Their playoff probability would have plummeted. Now it's somewhere, probably around 50% for the Detroit Lions. Keeps them interested ahead of this matchup against the Rams. But welcome into the show. The Cowboys have lost, by the way, and not good for Dallas. Look, we can go back to the conference standings and head over to the NFC. I'll put this right back up on the screen. Dallas drops to 6-1. This has now been updated since the last refresh. So Detroit's still in that 8th spot. 49ers in the 7th spot, even with 9 wins, which is absolutely crazy. But the 49ers are, I think, almost assured to stave off Detroit, Carolina, teams like that because of the superior conference record, as long as the 49ers do not collapse here down the stretch. So beating Tennessee would push that 49ers playoff probability to probably over 95%. It's around 92 or 93% right now. The Lions are in that 8th spot. They're scrapping and clawing for the 7. What's going to happen now for San Francisco is they're going to move up to at least number 6 this weekend. Why is that? And this is kind of going to be your rooting guide for this weekend. If you want me to make an entire rooting guide video, I will. But Green Bay and Chicago, the 1, I'm highlighting Chicago, and the 6 play on Sunday afternoon. Depending on who wins that game, the 49ers will jump the loser to 6. The loser of Chicago Green Bay is going to be 7 after this weekend. The 49ers will jump at least to 6. If somehow the Rams lose or the Seahawks lose, the 49ers can jump even further. If both the Rams and the Seahawks lose, then the 49ers will jump up to number 2. This is getting real, right? The 1 seed is not out of play for San Francisco. And that's what makes this crazy. They've got 9 wins, and they're at 7 right now. The Lions lead with 9 wins, tied for the most wins in the NFC. They're in that number 1 spot, and the Rams are in the number 2 spot at 9-3. All right, let's talk about the game today, because what we saw, it was a 44-30 win for the Detroit Lions. We saw that bottom barrel Dallas Cowboys defense. X-axis is offense. So the further to the right you are, the better your offense is. Y-axis, so up and down, the further down you are, the worse your defense. You want to be in the upper right. Dallas, they're not in the upper right. Dallas, they've been very poor defensively this year. I know there's been a slight resurgence with Quinnen Williams joining this team. They traded 2 first-round picks to the Jets. They thought that the defense might be able to rise to the occasion. To complement a really good offense, you could see the offense is way over to the right, but the defense showed up according to its position on the team tier chart for Dallas today. They just got smoked by that Lions offense. And as you could see, the Lions, they're a more balanced team than Dallas. The defense isn't terrible. It was good enough today to create a little bit of havoc. The pass rush was much better for the Lions today. I do think that the Lions are potentially dangerous team. And that's why the 49ers want them to take out the Rams. And that's happening in 10 days. Lions against the LA Rams. That's going to be at SoFi Stadium. It's not going to be an easy game for the Lions. They are a full tier, maybe even 2 tiers below LA, who is awesome this year on offense and defense. But as we've seen, this league is so wide open. The Rams, they just lost to Carolina. Carolina is what? 1, 2, 3 tiers below the Rams, who are up here in the upper right. So we saw today play out the way that you might expect between a Lions team with a decent defense and a Cowboys team with a terrible defense. Both of those teams playing good offense. But unpredictability can happen at any time. And if you're looking at this from the 49ers angle, they just want as many teams as possible to take a bite out of the Rams so they can gain that one game that they're missing so far in this NFL season to try to get to the NFC West title and the number 1 seed. It's possible to start talking about this stuff at this point of the year because the calendar is turned to December. This is when the playoff positioning talk gets so exciting. It's remarkable to me that the 49ers and the Bears have a chance to play on December 28th for the number 1 seed, but it does require the Rams to lose at least once more. Of course, it would require the Seahawks to lose before then. And the Bears and the Packers, well, those 2 teams are ahead of the 49ers, but they'll take care of that business this weekend because they do play each other. Take a look at some of the stats from the game tonight. We'll see just how badly Dallas's defense got dominated tonight. 44-30, the final score. Lions beat the Cowboys. We can go to the team stats. These are always fun. 408 yards for the Lions, 417 for the Cowboys. But look at this. I have it highlighted here. The Lions at 7.2 yards per play. So Dallas delivering a game worthy of a team in the bottom right. I mean, that's a bottom right defensive performance, giving up 7.2 yards per play. You know, I was watching early in this game. There was some decent pass rushing coming from the Dallas Cowboys. Jared Goff just isn't very mobile. That's why he's not Brock Purdy. I would even say that Dak Prescott doesn't have the same quickness that somebody like Purdy has. I know we've been talking all week about the NFL leading pressure to sack ratio of Brock Purdy. The second hardest quarterback to sack in the NFL is Dak Prescott, but Detroit was actually able to get to him a couple times today. To be exact, here are the defensive stats. The Lions were able to, 3 sacks from Muhammad, 1 for Campbell, 1 for Aleem McNeil. So 5 sacks for the Cowboys, a bunch of quarterback hits, 4 for Muhammad. Hutchinson had 1. That was the most, I believe, that Dak Prescott had been sacked all year. And we remember this makes the Lions interesting to me because last year, once they lost Aiden Hutchinson, they just didn't have the pass rush, I thought, to truly compete. And you saw it, really come to a head against the Washington Commanders in the postseason. They lost the game to the Commanders that was a little bit like the one that they won today against the Cowboys, where the Commanders put up 40 plus. I think the Lions were in the 30s, but they lost. When you play bottom barrel defense against a good offense, which is what Dallas played today against the Detroit Lions, who were also aided by a turnover, right? That one interception, I probably helped them get over 40. The one that bounced off the receiver's hands, went to the linebacker, set up that drive at the start of the third quarter. But anyway, when you play just average defense against the top offense, you're probably going to give up in the high 20s. Whenever you give up something in the 40s, like the Cowboys did today, that's disaster city. That's you just didn't play the type of defense you need to play. You gave up over 7 yards per play. Your offense probably also helped out the other team by giving them the football and setting the opposition up with good field position, and that's what happened to Dallas today. They're just not a well-rounded team. They may have Brandon Aubrey, who's kicking from 63 yards like it's a video game. They may have that on their side, special teams with a supernatural kicker and Dak Prescott playing good football this year, but they don't have the defense on their side, and that's why Dallas is essentially eliminated. If you want to look at the road that Dallas has this season, they're now the 10 seed. They're 6-6-1. And I mean, they would have to climb over so many teams to make this postseason with what, just 4 games left? I mean, Dallas's probability has got to be no higher than like 12 or 13%, I would say at this point. They don't have a good NFC record either, so they don't have tiebreakers that are going to potentially work in their favor at 3-5-1. So, I mean, and that's who Dallas is. It's a mediocre team. It's a bad defense. They traded Micah Parsons away. You didn't expect them to be much better defensively, did you? I think that they had some hopes that Quinnen Williams would turn things around. And yeah, I mean, they have notched wins over the Eagles and over the Kansas City Chiefs in the past 2 weeks, but they're just not good enough to sustain that into a 3-game defensively powerful stretch, because I don't even count that game against the Raiders as anything impressive. But they weren't good enough to sustain that even after a full week of rest. It's not like they went Sunday to Thursday. It was Thanksgiving to this Thursday. They were not good enough to do it against the Detroit Lions. So we turn our attention to this weekend when we get to see, as the 49ers are on their bye week, that Chicago Green Bay game, which will obviously shake up this order somewhat. We know the 49ers will be moving at least to number 6. By the way, I'm doing some analysis on quarterbacks. Here's our XY chart on quarterbacks. This should, draw some buzz. I've circled the 2 49ers QBs on there. You want to be further to the right and further up on this team tier chart. So, I mean, this is the quarterback chart. It's like the team tier chart, though, where you want to be further to the right and further up. X-axis is accuracy, completion percentage above expectation. Y-axis is efficiency, expected points added per play. Look at that. 49ers have 2 guys in the upper right quadrant. This is your regression line. Brock Purdy right along the line. Mac Jones also right along the line. Purdy in a better spot. Purdy, if he continues doing what he did against Cleveland, he can continue climbing up and to the right. I think that Drake May has been absolutely sensational this year for the New England Patriots. You're wondering where Stafford is? It's a little bit worse than Purdy in terms of efficiency. Purdy's dot a little bit higher than Stafford's. Of course, the sample size smaller for Brock Purdy. He's also been playing a little bit hurt, or a lot hurt this year, depending on the week. Against Jacksonville, the turf toe was really bothering him. I don't think he's quite 100% now, but close enough for the 49ers to be running him out there. All right, we can talk about Lions. We can talk about Cowboys. We can talk about the 49ers. We can talk about anything. I'm going to open this up to some of your questions. Looking through some of these. Yeah, Cowboys chances, they're saying, what, 14% to 24%? I mean, I'm not a calculator. I'm not a human statistical savant. I just spitballed that. I said it can't be any higher than 12%. And I mean, it's going to be a long, long shot for the Cowboys. Now, teams like the 49ers can absolutely collapse. I mean, that happens every year. Somebody just totally fades in December, but it's going to take a lot of good breaks for the Cowboys to get to that postseason. They put themselves back up against the wall with that really slow start. Yes, they turned it around with wins against the Raiders, against the Eagles, and against the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving. But they also needed this game against the Detroit Lions. It's just a brutal schedule, brutal stretch of the schedule for the Cowboys. Dak is having a great year. Dak did what he could. He put up 30 points in this game. But that defense and the interception was a tough break interception. That wasn't Dak Prescott's fault at the start of the third quarter. That defense for the Cowboys just didn't enter this season good enough, and currently isn't good enough for Dallas. people talking about Pickens. I tweeted this maybe earlier today or yesterday. A lot of the aggregators picked it up. It's funny to see George Pickens in Dallas. They traded for him back in, I think, May. Yeah, that was a May trade. The 49ers wanted Pickens from the Steelers back before they signed Brandon Aiyuk in 2024 when Aiyuk was being super difficult. I guess Aiyuk is still being difficult right now, but the 49ers wanted Pickens. The Steelers were unwilling to include Pickens in a package, and that trade obviously didn't happen. It was close to maybe happening anyway when Kyle Shanahan sprinted up to John Lynch's office and said, no, hey, Brandon Aiyuk wants to finally sign with us, but it might have happened without George Pickens. Yeah, I know that he was part of discussions. The what if, like, that we can go through, like the parallel universe of where the 49ers would not have re-signed Brandon Aiyuk after he had shown all those red flags over the course of negotiations. What if they would have brought George Pickens in, who I don't think is nearly as good of a blocker as Brandon Aiyuk, might have been a different fit into the offense, but boy, George is doing some nice stuff with Dak Prescott on that Dallas offense, and the 49ers are missing separators in their offense this year. They're still ranked in the 20s in average separation at the time of completion or incompletion. I think George Pickens would have made this 49ers offense better. Now, Pittsburgh didn't want to trade him to the 49ers. They decided to trade him after the 2024 season to the Cowboys. And as we saw in that comment that I put up, he's in a contract year for Dallas. So Dallas, in many ways, I mean, I can't say they're going for broke this year because they traded Micah Parsons away, but they're taking these big swings. They're trying to add splashy talent, trying to make splashy moves. Jerry Jones likes to stay in the news cycle. We know that. Traded away Micah Parsons, traded for Quinnen Williams. Not too much rhyme or reason to what Dallas is doing because I think that Quinnen is probably going to hold out this offseason for a new contract again. So they're going to find themselves in the same exact spot they found themselves in with Micah Parsons, except for maybe a slightly cheaper contract for Quinnen Williams, but they are 2 first-round draft picks down. You know, Jerry Jones has been, I respect the honesty. He doesn't pretend like he makes all these moves to be the best football team possible. He literally has said that he likes to just stay in the news cycle. He likes to keep the Cowboys relevant. And when you operate a team like that, you will often end up with an imbalanced team like the Cowboys. I mean, they play great offense and they play terrible defense, and it leads to a lot of games in the 40s and the 30s, and games like that can often end as 44-30 losses, which is what we saw from Dallas today. Detroit, Detroit's interesting to me because Detroit is going exactly along the path that we predicted on this show at the start of the season. And it was, they are losing their offensive coordinator. That's Ben Johnson, who's gone to the Chicago Bears. They're losing their defensive coordinator. That's Aaron Glenn, who's now the head coach of the New York Jets. I thought that there's no way that the Lions could sustain number 1 seed level play because I thought that so much of what they had succeeded with in the past couple of years had been the brain power of the coaching staff. That's one big drawback of having a rah-rah guy. And I know he's calling plays now, but he wasn't calling plays before, but a cheerleader of a head coach. Dan Campbell, great for the culture in Detroit, but then your staff is going to start getting poached. And your staff, I mean, they're the ones that are responsible for the insane schematic advantage that Detroit had, especially offensively with Ben Johnson. I mean, he was able to make Jared Goff into somebody people were considering an MVP candidate last year. You lose him to the Bears, what do you do? Well, David Shaw, the former Stanford coach, is now the pass game coordinator for Detroit. And Dan Campbell got so sick of whatever was going on play calling wise there that he said, I got to start calling plays a few weeks ago. I don't think that Dan Campbell is the greatest play caller. He definitely isn't as good as Ben Johnson. So the Lions lost a lot of the secret sauce that I think made them so good over the past couple of years. I mean, the Lions used to be a team that was way out here with the Packers and the Colts as far as elite offense, best in the league. And they've downgraded without Ben Johnson from elite to just good. Like they're number 7 offensively now. I think the 49ers are going to pass them because Purdy's been healthy now and they're moving in that direction. I think that Chicago, if Caleb Williams figures out how to throw the football on time, or just throw the football in general. I think Chicago will pass the Lions. They already have a better run game. I think the Lions offense probably going to be at like number 10 or so in the NFL. I'm surprised that the Seahawks aren't a little bit better offensively, to be honest. It seems that they would have better efficiency, but there have been some iffy moments for Seattle over the course of this season. The Lions have gone from offensive juggernaut to offensively decent, solid team. And the defense, even though they have Aiden Hutchinson this year, they're just not a great football team. Like they remain average defensively. They've never been better than average defensively under Dan Campbell. So, I mean, the Lions are a team that's 8-5. That's, let's look at the rest of the schedule. They have a chance to beat the Rams. They probably won't. We'll probably see that point spread pretty soon. Here, let's go to the Lions schedule. Let's see what they have remaining in this season. I've got to go to standings, find these. Let's go to the conference. Let's go to Detroit. So over the stretch run of this year, the Lions play the Rams. Okay, that's probably a loss. 49ers really hoping that this win against the Cowboys gives the Lions a little bit of momentum to pull the upset, to give the Rams the loss the 49ers need. But then they play at home against the Steelers. Yeah, I would expect the Lions to win that. They play at Minnesota, and then they play at the Bears. That's going to be a Week 18 showdown. Let's get this on the screen so you could see the bottom there. See, at the Bears, January 4th to finish the season. So if they're 8-5 right now, say that they lose to the Rams, that'd make them 8-6. Say that they win the next two, that'd make them 10-6. At the Bears, I mean, it's going to be tough with the way the Bears are playing, but I would say that Goff is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. I would say probably a toss-up for that game. I mean, they killed the Bears back in week 2, 52-21, but that was inside. This is going to be Chicago on January 4th. That's a whole different story. The Lions could still go this season. They could still go 11-6. Will that happen? They got 5 losses right now. They've got to split the Rams and the Bears, and if they go 11-6, they probably make the playoffs, but it's a really, really tough NFC this year. It all depends on what happens in front of them. I mean, it's just wild to me when you look at the conference standings and you see a 9-win team as the 7 seed. I mean, the Lions might be tough luck this year and be on the outside looking in at 11-6 because of how good this NFC is. But again, it's all unwritten. We've got about a month left. In fact, that January 4th regular season finale, exactly a month from now, it is December 4th. Happy to answer your questions. Let's go. Let's get this over 1,000 people. Send the link to all your friends. You might have seen me in the different studio with the Frank Gore jersey. That's because I was in Nashville when I did a show earlier today. Now I'm sitting in San Francisco, and we're at the second studio. So the timing was miraculous. I rushed from the airport here straight to the studio. I wanted to get live to finish this game, to do our Thursday night reaction. Jack, shout out to Jack, picked me up at the airport, and we made it in about 20 minutes, maybe 23, from the airport up here to Russian Hill. And this is the new studio that we built out. Jack helped with that as well. And we made it, 5-10 minutes after the final gun of the game? I mean, shout out to United. They got me in 20 minutes early to SFO, and that's what made it possible. Anyway, we're nearing 100,000 subscribers. The type of effort I'm putting in, flying cross country, getting here, doing the live right after the game, I think it deserves a subscribe from you. So please do hit that sub button. And the more that you hit the sub button, the more we can do 49ers massive roster breakdowns like the one that I did this morning. And for whatever reason, the 2023 49ers depth chart keeps on popping up on my screen. This is not the 2025 depth chart, but it was really fun because we just got sidetracked for 5 minutes this morning reminiscing about the 2023 49ers, who happened to beat the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. Who remembers that? What was it? 17-point deficit for San Francisco? I mean, that's back when Brandon Aiyuk was talking about ladybugs, and Brandon Aiyuk was making catches that were bouncing off of DB's helmets and just making huge receptions for the 49ers. Now it doesn't even seem like he wants to play for him anymore. I mean, how times have changed in just a couple of years. But Brock Purdy is still the quarterback. He's still one of the best in the league. That was a big statement night for Brock Purdy. It was a big statement night for the 49ers. And what a devastating night that was for the Detroit Lions. I mean, they had the Super Bowl against, it was devastating 2 weeks later for the 49ers because Kansas City was really beatable, I thought, that year. But I would have picked both the Lions and the Niners to beat the Chiefs in that Super Bowl. In fact, the Lions beat the Chiefs in week 1 of that season at Arrowhead. But Kansas City, they got it done. They got it done. I mean, we don't have to reminisce on that, do we? I'd rather not. But I think the Lions, the Lombardi Trophy was taken from them by Brock Purdy and the 49ers in the second half of that NFC Championship game. What would it cost for the 49ers to look into Justin Jefferson? Well, the good news for your question is it wouldn't cost them anything to look into Justin Jefferson. They could call up Minnesota. They know Minnesota's front office. I mean, a lot of those guys came from the 49ers. The bad news is that Minnesota wouldn't cost Minnesota anything to hang up on San Francisco. So Minnesota would have to be willing to move on from Justin Jefferson. Do you think that Minnesota is going to be going full teardown mode? I mean, the Vikings, and I was talking about this with Trent Williams, of all people, in the 49ers locker room the other day. They're big debate, right? Hindsight seems obvious that they should have kept Sam Darnold because they're obviously missing good quarterback play this year. But, I mean, the salary cap is the salary cap, and the Vikings, I mean, they spent a lot on J.J. McCarthy, and it seemed that they built up that team around the quarterback position robustly. Like, if a quarterback were ever to succeed, a young quarterback were ever to succeed early in his career, it would be with a veteran-laden defense. Brian Flores is a defensive coordinator. I mean, they even signed somebody like Javon Hargrave to play defensive tackle. They offensively have such a great receiving core with Justin Jefferson. It's been wild, to be honest, to see the quarterbacks implode the way that they have, or J.J. McCarthy not succeed the way that he hadn't succeeded for the Vikings. So they took a chance. They thought they could build the team around the QB position, kind of like the 49ers, and maybe the front office carry over their influenced Minnesota. They thought they could build the team like the 49ers were able to build around Brock Purdy. It obviously didn't work. It looks really stupid now that Sam Darnold left and the Vikings are the losing team. I mean, they flip-flopped with the Bears. I mean, it was the Bears who were the odd man out in that NFC North last year with 3 good teams. Now it's the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions, and the fourth team is the Minnesota Vikings, looking up at everyone else. So I don't know what they're going to do with Justin Jefferson moving forward. I would not be in the business of giving up transcendent players if I was a GM. Maybe they'll be in that business. I don't know. But yes, the 49ers will be looking for an ex-receiver. They need one more weapon. Like, regardless of what Ricky Pearsall gives you, Jawan Jennings is only under contract through the end of this season. You're going to need more receiving firepower no matter what. So like if Aiyuk had returned to the 49ers, or if he does return, and it seems to be a very, very slim possibility, and the 49ers are convinced, okay, we got to keep this guy because he's turned his mentality around and he's going to be back to who he was. And even if Pearsall ends up finishing the season well, you still have to figure out who your wide receiver 3 is going to be moving forward. Maybe it's Jordan Watkins. He's under contract, but Jennings is not under contract beyond this season. If Aiyuk is out of the equation, as it now appears is the case, well, then you've got Pearsall and what moving forward? I mean, Watkins, Cowing, Demarcus Robinson's under contract for 2 years, but he's no more than a number 3. He's probably a number 4. Sky Moore's a special teams weapon for the 49ers. I mean, the 49ers are going to have to draft or trade for or sign a bigger name receiver if they want this offense to keep on churning next year. I think the writing is very, very clearly on the wall for San Francisco. I am looking through for some questions. What's the latest on Curtis Rourke? Curtis, they're going to open up his practice window from non-football injury list. He tore his ACL. He played on a torn ACL at Indiana. They'll have him practice for 3 weeks, probably the last 3 weeks of the regular season. And then they're going to close it. I mean, unless something crazy happens at the QB position to where they need to activate him. And even then, they may just sign somebody off the street. This is going to be a redshirt year for Curtis Rourke, the rookie 7th-round pick out of Indiana. He'll practice, but I would be absolutely shocked if he was activated to the actual game day roster. I am looking for more questions. We got over 900 here. If we got up to 1,000, that would be epic. That'd make my night. I just flew into San Francisco and I haven't had my burrito yet. Another reason for you guys to subscribe. I know that we're close to 100,000, but for me to land after a cross-country flight at SFO and not head to the taqueria as my first stop, I mean, that means I'm committed to doing this show. And we didn't want to make you wait too long after the 49ers and after the Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson has the highest fourth quarter pressure rate in a season in the next gen stats era. This is a crazy stat. No other pass rusher has a pressure percentage higher than 25% in a season ever since Aiden Hutchinson, or ever since next gen stats started counting. Aiden Hutchinson's fourth quarter pressure rate is 32%. So essentially 1 out of every 3 pass rushes, he's pressuring the quarterback in the fourth quarter. Mike says that the Vikings can trade J.J. McCarthy and a second-round pick for Mac Jones this offseason. I'd be for it. The 49ers might be, 49ers, that would be the best of both worlds. 49ers get a QB rehab project and J.J. McCarthy under contract for several more years. And the Vikings get a ready-made QB and Mac Jones trying to save people's jobs. I don't know if that would happen. I think it would be awesome if it did, but that's Mike's proposal. That would be hilarious. Mike wants the 49ers to draft Mekhi Lemon, the USC wide receiver, in the first half, in the first round of the draft. Definitely in the first half of the draft. We'll see. The draft is still a long way away. Anybody talking about the draft for more than 10 seconds right now, I think nobody cares. Nobody cares. So we're going to focus on this 49ers season. Guys, stuff like this, trade Aiyuk to the Cowboys for CeeDee Lamb is not realistic. CeeDee Lamb is an actually productive player who's in football games. I know he concussed himself today, but no team is going to trade for somebody who hadn't played in over a year by trading away somebody who's currently productive for them. Let's turn off the Madden thinking. Let's be a little bit more realistic. How about this? Any chance for the 49ers to get Myles Garrett and Max Crosby? Yeah, Max Crosby would be more realistic if he wasn't on the Raiders. That he signed a contract that didn't have too big of a signing bonus, so he is relatively movable. But the Raiders aren't going to trade with the 49ers. Mark Davis has already said no to stuff like that in the past with Khalil Mack. Myles Garrett just re-signed with the Browns. Like, just re-signed. The Browns can't move on from him. They're already financially hamstrung by the Deshaun Watson contract. Watson just got his practice window open, by the way. So Watson's back at practice before Brandon Ayuk's back at practice. It's crazy. But long story short, no. Let's stop talking about Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, because Myles, if he would have tried to force his way out of Cleveland, he did, it seemed, for a couple weeks. But then he saw a lot of money and he re-signed with them. That ship has sailed. It would have taken a little bit more resolve from Myles Garrett this past offseason. With Max, yeah, he just re-signed with the Raiders. The Raiders are terrible. But he did just re-sign with them. The Raiders would want to have to move him, and I could tell you they're not going to want to move him to the 49ers. That's just how Mark Davis operates, for better or for worse. The 49ers offered more than the Chicago Bears for Khalil Mack back in 2018. Yeah, that was 2018. The Raiders decided to trade him to the Bears instead of the 49ers. So that just gives you an idea where Mark Davis is at. You think that Aiyuk is going to go to the Raiders? He could go to the Commanders. I don't know. If there's any rational line of thinking to what Brandon Aiyuk is doing now, giving up a ton of money, it is that he's trying to force his way to somewhere that he wants to play. And I don't know anybody that willingly says, I want to go to the Raiders. If history teaches us anything, he might be interested in going to the Commanders, and he might just be trying to be so difficult, willing to just torch all this pay that he had coming to him, maybe even have the 49ers recoup some of his 2025 salary. We'll see what they do about that. But, there is a theory, and it could be a plausible one, that Brandon Aiyuk is just being so difficult that he wants to get the 49ers to cut him with a post-June 1st designation so they gain salary cap space this year. So he has the ability to sign where he wants to, and he goes to a team like the Commanders. I mean, the simplest story is usually the true one. Occam's razor. Why we like using that principle. And that would mean Brandon Aiyuk trying to go, he just force his way out somewhere. It still is not rational from Brandon Ayuk's perspective. Like, he's not going to be able to sign a massive contract with a new team. Not as big as the one that he currently has with the 49ers. The grass should not be viewed as greener on the other side. He's got a great quarterback and a great coach with Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. He put up massive efficiency numbers the last time that he saw a full season with these guys. But nobody is accusing Brandon Aiyuk of being rational. Nobody's accused him of being rational over the course of that entire contract process and after it. So to me, it's tragic. I mean, the guy's abandoning his teammates. The 49ers could use Brandon Aiyuk this year once he's cleared, which apparently it was on the way to that happening. But, if Aiyuk is not cooperative, maybe that doesn't happen at all. Who knows how that's all going to shake out. Either he wants to play for the 49ers or he doesn't. And it seems like he just doesn't want to play for San Francisco. They can't cut him right now. People are saying stuff like this: the sooner Aiyuk is gone, the better. They can't cut him because all the dead money would hit this year from the money they've already paid him, and they would hamstring their salary cap situation. They've got to cut him with a June 1st designation, which they can't do until later. And so for now, Brandon Aiyuk has got to be on this roster until the new league year. And so, I mean, he's kind of a ghost in the building right now, right? But he's still technically on the roster. So we could stop talking about Brandon Aiyuk. Why don't we talk about something a little bit more relevant? We were just talking about Cowboys losing, and that's probably the end of the season for Dallas. It would take a complete miracle for the Cowboys to bounce back from this. 44-30. It was, I wouldn't say it was a barn burner, but it was a very high-scoring game featuring not a lot of defense from the Dallas Cowboys, which is basically what we've seen from them over the course of this entire season. I mean, Dallas is just not a balanced team, as you can see right here, bottom right. So the Lions now are the team that's firmly in that 8th spot in the NFC. They had the better record than the Cowboys going into this game. They have the better record leaving the game. They're technically a game behind the 49ers. But the reason that I think that a Lions win is actually good for San Francisco. I don't think the Lions are as big of a threat to the 49ers as it might seem unless San Francisco collapses, because the 49ers hold that tiebreaker over Detroit. That's really big, right? The NFC record, 49ers are 8-2. The Lions are 5-4. One more Lions loss or one more 49ers NFC win means the 49ers clinch the tiebreaker over the Lions. So the 49ers have a good buffer in between them and Detroit, even though they're only technically a game ahead. But it's who the Lions play moving forward. And you could see it here. The next game for Detroit is right here, the LA Rams. And the 49ers need somebody to knock off the Rams because they don't play the Rams the rest of this season. And maybe the Lions could do it. Maybe the Seahawks can do it 4 games after that. I think if you're the 49ers, though, you want the Lions to have a little bit of momentum heading into SoFi. Remember, it's going to be a shorter week for the Rams, who are playing the Cardinals on Sunday, than it is for the Lions, who just beat the Cowboys. So the Lions now have a little bit of extra rest before they head into SoFi to try to beat the Rams. And that would be massive for the 49ers if the Lions could make that happen. Ryan Jones has a great point. Modern 49ers fans would be hating on Montana and Rice. Yes, they would. Modern 49ers, and not all of them. I think most 49ers fans are really smart, but you've got a loud minority who just doesn't know what they're talking about, and they don't realize that you need to be in the upper right of this chart to be a good quarterback. They don't appreciate the fact the 49ers have 2 of them. It's the first time since Montana and Young, or I guess Garoppolo and Purdy were both upper right guys. Yeah, So, yeah, it hadn't been since Montana and Young. It's been 2022. Garoppolo and Purdy were both quarterbacks in the upper right. 49ers have that again. They're having a nice QB year. It's a hell of a year for the position with the 49ers. And I think that 49ers fans should appreciate that. Laken Tomlinson, no, I think his knee is done. I think he was playing on his last leg with the Texans. The Texans don't have a good line, and they released him. You're complaining about the 49ers offensive line. Why would you want them to go pick up players who weren't able to stay with playoff contenders who have worse offensive lines? Wouldn't that, by definition, make the 49ers offensive line take a step back? The 49ers line is actually playing above average football this year. And Brock Purdy is the best quarterback at avoiding sacks. So average pass protection is good enough for Brock Purdy to deliver big for San Francisco. We've seen that in the past before. 49ers run blocking from their offensive line has been well above average this year. They've struggled more actually run blocking at the wide receiver position, and they've struggled when George Kittle hasn't been available. But I wouldn't expect the 49ers to go for guys cut by other teams when those teams have worse offensive lines than San Francisco. I am waiting for some good questions. Post them right now. We've only got a few more minutes. I don't know if they're going to have Saleh for a few more years, but Jim Schwartz might be available next year, and they already have Gus Bradley on staff in case Saleh is already hired this offseason. But I think it would be cool if Saleh were able to stay for at least one more year. I don't want to prevent Saleh from getting a head coaching job. He deserves that if it pops up. But I think Saleh is going to be careful of what he chooses if he has offers, because you can't go to a bad organization. You've got to go to a good setup. And if he could bide his time, he could wait for Nick Bosa and Fred Warner to come back and for these rookies to mature into sophomores. And I think the 49ers would have been a top 5 defense had Bosa and Warner not got hurt. You saw what they did against the Seattle Seahawks on the road week 1 when they had those guys. So it would be cool to be able to see Saleh see this through. But if he is offered a good opportunity to be a head coach, I don't know why anybody should try to stop him. Robert Saleh deserves the very best. He's already put in years and years of good work with the 49ers. Who replaces Ben Barch? Spencer Burford. Barch and Burford have already been splitting snaps. The bad news is that Barch is, I think, the better performing offensive lineman of the two, but they were already splitting snaps 50-50. So it's going to be up to Spencer Burford on that left side now. You say O-line plays only given up 1 sack in the last 3 games. Guess who's been the QB in the last 3 games? Brock Purdy. The 49ers offensive line is a lot better than casuals say it is. But you know who's a lot better than casuals say he is? Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the hardest quarterback to sack in the entire NFL. The statistics bear that out. There's a wide margin between Purdy and everyone else. His pressure to sack ratio is only 5.8%. The next one was, I think, Dak Prescott. We saw him tonight, like 9%. There's a big gap between Purdy and number 2. So his escapability and his quickness to release the football and his ability to throw it away is elite. Purdy, that's why Purdy's been the most efficient quarterback in the league since 2022. He is very, very good at making sure that negative plays don't happen in his own backfield. And that helps his offensive line a lot too. 49ers had the number 26 ranked offensive line back in 2023, and Purdy set records with his efficiency. So, I'm here to credit the 49ers offensive line, but when I see that somebody saying they've only given up 1 sack in 3 games, you mean to say that Brock Purdy has only been sacked 1 time in the past 3 games? That's more of a Brock Purdy stat than it is a 49ers O-line stat. All right, any more questions? Let's go. If the Niners can get their running game going, watch out. Well, yeah, the 49ers are, ever since George Kittle has returned, they have the number 8 rushing efficiency in the league. Prior to George Kittle's return, the 49ers were number 27 rushing efficiency. So I think the Niners run game is back. They weren't nearly as good against Cleveland because that was Cleveland, but since week 7, right? Kittle came back against Atlanta. It's been a top 10 efficiency rushing attack. This offense, guys, has the tools, especially with Purdy back, to be elite. They've got to overcome the Ben Barch loss at left guard. Hopefully they've been grooming Spencer Burford to be ready to take 100% of those snaps with the timeshare at that position. But the 49ers, the one real missing link is Brandon Aiyuk right now. But Kittle, McCaffrey, Pearsall, Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, those guys are going to have to continue carrying a little bit more weight because it doesn't look like Brandon Aiyuk wants to play for this football team. All right, guys, 46 minutes in. It's time to go get a burrito. We'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks for watching. Lions, man, I really want to get to 1,000. We're at 939, but I think some of you are going to start logging off at this point since I said I was wrapping up. I just wanted to 61 more. 61 more. We could say that we peaked at 1,000. That would be so fun. I don't think it's going to happen. It's at 942. It's going up a little bit right now. I'm just hanging on for dear life. Maybe one more question. Don't leave. If you leave, we're not getting to 1,000. Anybody who hits, I'm going on to the next stream. I'm going on to watch something else on YouTube. You're not getting me to 1,000. We're stuck at 942 right now. I mean, we need one of those boosts where it goes up like 50 in 1 second. We'll see what Mike is saying about this. Mike is saying that he's excited for the Jake Brendel extension that comes soon. Look, we're down to 918. That's rough. Brendel hasn't been bad this year. Give credit where it's due. He doesn't have knee tendonitis anymore, and he's playing better football. Now, he's been, I think, above average run blocking, slightly below average pass blocking. He is who he is. That's who he was before the knee tendonitis. I think that he really sunk last year with the injury, but he's been a bit better here in 2025. All right, that's it. We dropped under 900. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm hungry. Burrito time. Glad that we were able to do lives from both Nashville and San Francisco this year. We'll talk to you guys soon.